Hey all, welcome to Share Trek. This is Raj here. This is an emergency news bulletin. I'm bringing out a news alert as there are two news items that I need to communicate to you. I'm slightly delayed in bringing it to you, but I thought it's better to do it now rather than tomorrow. The first item is about Beam Therapeutics and the other is about Bluebird Bio. But before I go ahead, I want to give a huge shout out to Jesse Isaacson, our longtime subscriber. As soon as he found out that I have enabled the super thanks feature, today he sent me a $25 super thanks. So a huge shout out to Jesse Isaacson. Thanks for supporting the channel all these months and years, and thanks for inaugurating my super thanks feature. Much appreciated. And having said that, let's get started with our news bulletin. Welcome back, friends. Let us start with the news about Beam. I need to set the background for those that have not been following Beam and its pipeline closely and may not be able to make sense of the news without the background. So let us start off with June 2020, when Beam Therapeutics and a company called Magenta Therapeutics announced a collaboration to evaluate targeted antibody drug conjugate, or ADC, which was titled MGTA-117 as a conditioning regimen for base editing therapies. It was announced as a non-exclusive research and clinical collaboration agreement to evaluate the potential utility of MGTA-117, Magenta's novel targeted ADC for conditioning of patients with sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia receiving Beam's base editing therapies. You may recollect that Beam is pursuing two differentiated base editing approaches to treat hemoglobinopathies. The first one is its hereditary persistence of fetal hemoglobin program to precisely and robustly elevate fetal hemoglobin, which could be used in treatments for both sickle cell disease as well as beta thalassemia. This therapy is called Beam 101, and we are familiar with it, and we know that it's doing well in the clinical trials. They also had as a novel approach to directly correct the sickle cell causing point mutation, which is called Makassar. That therapy is called Beam 102. There was a hold put by FDA on the Beam IND application, which was later on lifted by FDA just a few days or weeks earlier. And I had brought a report to you saying that the FDA hold was lifted on Beam 102 IND application, but Beam themselves decided to hold back progress on Beam 102 while they progress 101 and take it towards monetization. They were going to come back to us later on and let us know what they are planning to do with 102. So that's the background. Now, conditioning is a critical component necessary to prepare a patient's body to receive edited cells, which carry the correct gene and must engraft in the patient's bone marrow in order to be effective. Today's conditioning regimens rely on non-specific chemotherapy or radiation, which are both associated with significant toxicities. They weaken the patient further, and when the patient is further weakened, any good therapy cannot reach its full potential. So the effectiveness of the therapy is also compromised. At that time, in June 2020, when they launched this alliance, they said that the MGTA-117 precisely targets only hematopoietic stem cells and progenitor cells, sparing immune cells, and has shown high selectivity, potent efficacy, wide safety margins, and broad tolerability in non-human primate models. MGTA-117 may be capable of clearing space in the bone marrow to support long-term engraftment of the modified HSCs that are engrafted into the patient and allow for rapid recovery in patients. This is the most gentlest way of conditioning the patient to receive a transplant. On December 20, 2022, which is just a couple of days ago, or maybe a day ago, Magenta Therapeutics informed the FDA of 2 dose-limiting toxicities in the highest dose group of its phase 1 of 2 study and for MGTA-117, and said that no more patients will be dosed in that particular high-level cohort. The stock fell 40% at the market open on Tuesday due to this news. Magenta had already laid off employees earlier this year and had given up on another preconditioning transplant therapy called MGTA-145, so probably there were a lot of jitters in the market. What we need to note is that Beam and Magenta worked together on MGTA-117, which is still doing well in the earlier cohorts. Cohort 1, 2, 3 are doing very well, and FDA is allowing Magenta to proceed with clinical trials on those 3 cohort, and Magenta has said that they won't dose on the higher level cohort where it did not work, where it elicited toxicity. Magenta CEO Jason Gardner is proactively focusing on MGTA-117. So right now there is no impact on Beam 101 to the best of my knowledge. So everything is hunky-dory out there. We just dodged a bullet out there. Next news is about Bluebird Bio, and it's a good news story. If you guys recollect, in December 2021, lower cell clinical studies were placed on a partial hold for patients under 18 because of investigation into an adolescent patient with persistent non-transfusion dependent anemia following treatment with lower cell. Then there was another similar case that was detected that was sufficient to put a partial hold in adolescents and pediatric demography. Detailed investigation revealed that both patients had 2 alpha globin gene deletions, also known as alpha thalassemia trait. As a result of conclusively identifying the cause, this genotype was added to the exclusion criteria for ongoing studies, which means that anybody in future with this particular gene trait will not be included in this study. With that undertaking, the FDA has informed Bluebird Bio today that the partial clinical hold for patients under the age of 18 in studies evaluating lower cell for SCD has been lifted. This development comes after Bluebird Bio was able to satisfactorily answer the questions from FDA in order to resolve the partial hold. They are now working closely with the study investigators and clinical trial sites to resume enrollment and treatment of pediatric and adolescent patients, and they expect to get started again on Q1 2023. Friends, as you know, we have Christmas approaching and there's a lot of holidays in between, so nothing meaningful is going to happen for the next week or so. So it's natural that they would be able to start Q1 2023 at the earliest despite their best efforts. This is a very positive news, and it's a positive momentum for Bluebird for HGB-120, which is their therapy. And Bluebird is on track to submit a BLA or biologics license application to the FDA for lower cell in the first quarter of 2023. It's fantastic news for Bluebird. And that's all from me for now. I just thought that I'll bring this urgent news segment to you. I didn't want to wait until tomorrow. And I hope you all have a great day. And again, before signing off, I'd like to give a shout out to Jesse Isaacson again. Thanks, Jesse. And probably we'll see you again on a Zoom call or something very soon. Bye for now.